Comment 453 says that there's no such thing as the square root of a negative number. Remember, square rooting means backwards multiplying, backwards powering. So the square root of 9, that's a symbol which instructs you to think of a multiplication question which gives the answer 9, and you have to use the same number twice in a repetition. So obviously 3 times 3 works, so that's why the square root of 9 is 3. Sometimes we put a little number there, that's a code for how many times we want you to use the number. So can I think of a multiplication question with repetition that gives 16? Yes, I can. In fact, I can do it in a number of ways. But which of these is the business? It's that one, because this little 4 tells me to think of a question that uses repetition of 4 rather than a repetition of 2. So that's why the fourth root of 16 is 2. Now you've long known that a negative times a negative is a positive. That means that you're in an impossible position if I want you to give a repeated multiplication question that gives you a negative. It just can't be done. I mean, how do you use the same number twice and get a negative? If you use a 0 twice, you get a 0. If you use a negative twice, you get a positive. If you use a positive twice, you get a positive. You just can't get a negative out of a twofold repetition. Now, you can get a negative out of a threefold repetition. This question says, how can I get a negative 27 in a repeated multiplication question using the same number 3 times? Well, it's quite easy. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 works, because that's 9 times negative 3, and a positive times a negative is a negative. But to return to what comment 453 says, it says that there's no such thing as the square root of a negative number. Now, the practical effect for you of that is that you need to check your work. If anything you're doing gives you a negative number, then it suggests that you've made a mistake. Or alternatively, if you're solving equations, it might mean that there's no solution, and sometimes that just happens. Sometimes the answer to an equation is that there is no solution. So there's two things there. If you have to do the square root of a negative number, it might indicate that you've made a mistake. Alternatively, it might indicate that the examiner was deliberately trying to trap you, and that all you have to do is notice the trap and say there's no answer.